Hey you guys, Marlyn with Beautiful Beena Designs back with another video. Today I would like to share my opinion on some card making crafting supplies for the beginner card maker. Now this information you might find a little tip or helpful nugget even if you're a long time card maker, but really I'm targeting the new card maker. And the reason I wanted to make this video, first of all, Dee Dee left me a comment saying that she'd like to see it, so I hope you're watching, Dee Dee. Thank you so much. But also, and the reason that I originally got the idea is if you've seen some of my previous videos, you may be aware that I'm a long-time paper crafter. I used to scrapbook. I like to paper craft in general. I like to craft in general. I love being creative. But I've never really, until recently, enjoyed card making or stamping. And the reason is I did not think that I was very good at it. And I always had trouble with my stamps. I always felt like they just didn't come out the way that I had hoped and planned. And as I explored card making a little bit more and started to become familiar with some YouTubers, some professional crafters, and also you guys know that one of my favorites is Neenah at Cards and Coffee Time. And I started to notice that most of these folks were using the same materials, same or very similar. And I started to think maybe the problem is less me and my abilities and more the products that I'm using and the products that I'm purchasing. So once I started to explore that a little bit more, I became much happier with my card making results. So let's start with what you absolutely need for card making, at least the way that I do it. You're always going to need some cardstock. You're going to need your papers. You are going to need inks. And if you are a stamping card maker, of course, you'll need your stamps. So let's start with those three items, those three necessities. Now, there is an industry leading cardstock for card making. I think it's fair to say this is the industry leader. I'd like to take a quick second to tell you that everything I'm sharing with you today is my opinion based on my experiences. If I'm presenting something as a fact, it is a fact, true and accurate to the best of my knowledge. So if you guys disagree with anything I say, or if you have had a different experience, want to share an opinion, please do. Please leave me a comment. I think that YouTube has given us an amazing opportunity to learn from each other. Most of what I know about card making, I learned from YouTube. So please share with me and let's continue to learn from each other. Getting back to the paper, Neenah Classic Crest Solar White 110-pound paper. That's what you're going to see so many of your professional crafters and experienced crafters using for their general purpose. Now there are different reasons. They might use different papers. Sometimes for a card panel, they might go a little bit lower in weight. Card base is pretty much always going to be this 110-pound. And then if they're ink blending or something, they might use a Bristol Smooth. But for general use, let's keep it simple, stick to the basics. General use, Neenah Classic Crest Solar White 110-pound. This paper is pricey. It's great paper. You will get great results, but it is not inexpensive paper. Tina at Cards and Coffee Time introduced us to this Cougar Digital. It is a 110-pound weight as well. My experience, I decided to try it on her recommendation, and my experience is these two are so very close in quality, in the results that you receive, that really, if you're able to get this Cougar Digital at a great discount compared to the Neenah, I say absolutely go for it. You're going to like what you get. Now, the fine folks at Cougar Digital, I think they're on to us. Tina's recommendation must have put a little bit of a surge in their sales or something, because when Tina found this paper, and I think it was just several months ago, I'm not exactly sure when, it was $19.99 a ream. When I bought it, it was $27.99 a ream. Now, the other day I went and checked on it, and it was $35.99 a ream. Now, all of those prices are from Amazon. Prices will fluctuate up and down, so keep an eye on it. But I'll post a link to what's going on right now. If the price gap closes between these two, then I would say it definitely comes down to personal preference. Whichever one you like better, you know, if that price point isn't so much of a difference anymore, go with what you like better. But if price is important to you and this Cougar stays affordable, I really do believe you'll like your results. So give it a try. I do think, like Tina said, that the Cougar Digital is slightly brighter, slightly whiter, but really they are both fantastic papers. They take stamps well. I ink blend on these quite often. I don't always use a smooth cardstock for that or a specific, you know, ink blending specialty paper. I will use these. Let's get in now to talking a little bit about inks. I have 3 inks on my desk here. I've got VersaFine, which may be the ink that I use most commonly. It is a pigment ink for fine details. It's going to give you very crisp images. You guys, it is super important that you're using the right ink. One of the mistakes I was making was that I didn't know the difference from one ink to the next, one manufacturer to the next. Dye, pigment, whatever. I really didn't know. I love VersaFine for sentiments, but I use it really for a lot of stamping, especially when there's any type of detail. It's also good with embossing. You can emboss with this ink. So I do a lot, especially on the back of all of my cards. I emboss them using VersaFine and clear embossing powder. So that for me is a must-have. Memento is alcohol ink friendly. So if you're going to color with Copics or Spectrum Noir or something like that, Memento or something similar, there are other brands, but Memento is the one that I have if I'm going to do any alcohol coloring. Now I have shared that I don't particularly care for alcohol coloring, so I don't do it very frequently, but that is a great ink for alcohol coloring. StazOn we're not going to probably use today, but I wanted to mention it because when I discovered StazOn, I found that I did get a clean, crisp image, and I was very happy with that, but I came to learn that this also is more of a specialty ink. Over time, this could damage your stamps. From what I understand, I don't actually know 100%, it has not damaged any of mine, but it hasn't been that long and I haven't used it that much. However, I still use my StazOn regularly if I'm working with shaker cards and I want to stamp on acetate, or if I want to stamp on a photo or some other slick surface. This StazOn will stamp on and stay on just about any surface that you choose to use it on. It does take a little bit to dry if you put it on something glossy, but once it's dry, you're good to go. So next, and I do recommend all 3 of these for your base stamps. Certainly there are others. I'm not limiting to these, and I've used many others that I enjoy, but just again, basics, starter, these are 3 I think are worth investing in. And maybe not even the StazOn to start with, but for sure these 2 I recommend. Now, let's get into stamps. Outside of choosing the wrong ink and the wrong paper, wouldn't you know it, I also was choosing the wrong stamps. I would find really super cute stamp sets at some of the craft shops. Like I got this one, or, you know, really the bigger craft stores, supply stores. I got this one at Michael's. It is really cute. Little ice cream, you melt my heart. Bananas for you with the banana stamp. I loved it. It comes with the coordinating dies. I think it was, you know, 40% off, so $6 for this set. Well, it is cute, but, and there is a place for it, but you know how it is, just with everything else, just like with everything else, you get what you pay for. And I did not find that when I buy these types of stamps, I get the quality that I do with Hero Arts, or similar. Concord and Ninth is another favorite. Again, I'm just starting out, but really, you know, if you're going to go for one of those really specialty stamp manufacturers like Hero Arts, Lawn Fawn is another one that I really like. I haven't done a lot with Simon Says Stamp, but I know that they are great based on what I see and hear from other crafters. If you're going to go with a little bit more of the value product, there's a place for it. For example, I'm going to be having a little card making crafty party for my kids and their friends, and I'm going to whip out all my Recollections products. The kids are going to make great, beautiful cards. They're going to be thrilled. But for my cards where I want a little bit of a higher quality result, I'm really not using these anymore. I will show you right now why. And I have seen some of the other YouTubers have stated you can condition them, you can file them down, make them a little more rugged, get a better impression. No, I don't want to do that. I want to bring my craft supplies into my craft room and start crafting with them. Here is another stamp set that I have. I did make a video on this. I made several cards and did a card share. This is a Hero Arts stamp and cut set. It's Eat Cake All Day, I think. Yeah, this one is Eat Cake All Day. And I'd like to show you now the difference when I use the two different stamps. So we're going to go with our Memento ink to start with. And I'm using a foam pad under my stamps, which I will talk to you about in just a minute. But first, let's see the difference here. I want to kind of keep this on camera so you can see that I'm doing everything the same. This is the Cougar Digital paper. There's your Hero Arts stamp with this Memento ink. And this is the Neenah Solar White. Again, Memento. Now we're going to do this Recollections ice cream. And you will see immediately the difference. Now, if I use the VersaFine, I am able to get a little bit of a better image, but it's just really not where I want it to be. As a comparison, we'll go ahead, that was the Memento. We'll go ahead and we'll use that VersaFine and see what everybody thinks. I'm going to wipe this Memento off of my stamps really quickly. I use baby wipes to clean my stamps. That seems to work for me. I know a lot of other crafters do too. Okay, so VersaFine, this is again that pigment ink for the fine details. Now, pigment ink does seem to be more forgiving. Does take longer to dry. Again, you can emboss with it. This VersaFine is probably my all-time favorite ink right now. So you can see that slice of cake. And now you'll see this ice cream cone comes out a little bit nicer too, but still the lines are thick and bleeding a little bit. I'm going to hold these up so you can get a closer look and decide what you think. This is the Cougar Digital, Memento, Memento, VersaFine, VersaFine. You can kind of see the difference there. Neenah, Memento up top, VersaFine down here. So you can see instantly with the better stamps, and I didn't even use the inks that I used to use. That would just, trust me, stick with the good inks. That would be even worse when you see the comparison. But from the stamps alone, you're going to get quite a difference. So I encourage you to invest in good stamps and invest in some versatile sets. You don't need a ton of supplies to get started. Some other things that I want to touch on really quickly. This foam mat that I'm using underneath my cardstock is a piece of Creatology foam from Michaels. It was roughly $1, maybe $1.50. I think I even used a coupon to tell you the truth, and it was like 90 cents. This is, to the best of my knowledge, the original Stamper Secret Weapon. Stephanie Bernard used to use something like this in some of her earlier videos that I've watched on YouTube, filmed several years ago. And this product works. So Sizzix got a hold of that, and somewhere along the way, I don't know any of the details or the backstory, but somewhere along the way there became a product known as the Sizzix Stamper Secret Weapon. It retails for about 10 bucks. I've never tried it. It could be better than this, but this foam serves me quite well for just $1. So there's an example of when I say go with the value brand. Now, speaking specifically of Recollections, here is a pigment ink that I bought from Michaels out of curiosity. It was on sale. It was about $3. It's an ombre ink pad. As I mentioned, the pigment inks can be more forgiving. I love this ink pad, and I've used it for big background stamps with great results. Now, when you use ombre ink pads, you want to kind of shimmy a little to blend those colors. But you'll see when I put this one down, this Recollections product, that pigment ink, we're going to get a nice image. And you can see that ombre effect going from darker to paler. And pigments. Now again, certain times you'd want to use them and certain times that you wouldn't, but I do recommend giving these inks a try. Definitely experiment with the pigment inks. I've had great success even with the value brands on those. Similar to my to my foam mat, I use a craft mat. And my craft mat is this. You may have seen it in some of my videos. It is a laminated sheet of pink paper. I did not buy this. I didn't spend $16.99 or whatever to get that easy to clean craft mat. In fact, I received this as a gift. This is something that my son made me for Valentine's Day in 2015. I used the back for ink blending and easy cleanup with a baby wipe. And having this around, it inspires me. It makes me happy. I really like using this. For those times when I feel like I need a little bit more true color visibility with my craft mat, I use this, which is a piece of, I think it's the Cougar Digital cardstock that I ran through my laminating machine. And this one is thicker than the pink one and flatter. It will hold up quite well, and those are great. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I do want one of those Tomic by Tim Holtz glass craft mats, so at some point you'll probably come visit me here and see that I got one of those for ease of cleanup, and they're raised and you can just do so many different things on it. It's not a need to have. I could get by with that craft mat, but I really would like to get one of those glass craft mats, so at some point I probably will. Okay, let's move into embossing. I love to emboss. I'm not going to do any examples here. There is your consideration with when you use pigment ink. It does take a long time to dry, so either emboss it, heat set it, or get it out of your way if you're going to be showing some more products. I grabbed that with my palm when I showed you my craft mat. So I'm going to move this out of the way now. That's not an indication that there's anything bad about the ink. That is an indication that I was careless. Pigment ink takes a long time to dry. Getting into embossing, this is another area where I really just felt like I was failing at embossing. I bought this super cute Zap by American Crafts, and typically I think American Craft products are decent. I like them. But I bought this, and because I do have faith in the American Crafts brand, I didn't really think that there was probably anything wrong with the heat tool. I tried several different embossing powders, so now I do have a little bit of a collection built up. But lo and behold, after a little while, this started to shift. Now, when I first bought this heat tool, everything was properly lined up. I have no idea how this happened. I did not mistreat the tool. But one day it just started to smell funny while I was using it. And sure enough, the plastic was melting. Meanwhile, in trying to find out what I maybe was doing wrong, since my heat embossed images were not crisp, they were not coming out well, I was watching a bunch of videos trying to see what more experienced crafters were doing differently. And time again, I kept seeing the exact same product and heat tool. And it is this Wagner heat tool. Now, this retails for about $40. You can get it at most craft stores, Simon Says Stamps, Hero Arts, most of your major retailers. I was fortunate to find this on Amazon for $25, which is quite a bargain. I do a lot of my shopping on Amazon. It's just so convenient. I try to use some of the other retailers when I can, but oftentimes, you know, I do. It does come down to saving the $15 savings on a $40 product. So I went with Amazon, and once I started using this tool, it was a game changer. My heat embossing now is great, and I have several different products. Now here we talked about Recollections. Here's a Recollections. I have an orange and a red here. The red is glitter. The orange is a gloss. These are, again, not my favorites. Definitely there's a place for them, and we will use them in our arts and crafts, but this will not be my go-to option for my cards. Then we've got Zing, and these came in a kit with that American Crafts heat tool. I got several colors. I want to say 4 colors. Here's the silver and the gold. Those are okay. These are not your detail embossing powder, so that's why they don't give as much of a crisp, detailed image, but they are in between the detail and the chunky. And they do okay. They're not too bad. Now, once again, I know I keep coming back to Hero Arts. These are my Hero Arts. That's the Silver Sparkle that came in the, I believe it was the March 2018, my monthly hero, Silver Sparkle, recently, whichever kit recently came with the embossing powder. That one's nice. It's got a lot of pretty shimmer. But really my favorite way to emboss is with a colored ink. Typically I will use the black pigment, the VersaFine, but sometimes I will use, for example, the banner that I smeared here. If I would have embossed that with clear, that would still be perfect. It would never smear, it sets it. But this is a clear embossing powder, and look at those details. That is beautiful. That is exactly what I put on the back of my cards. Finally, I have some Stampendous embossing powders. Now, I do think that Stampendous has a pretty solid place in this industry, so it could be maybe that I need to practice with these a little bit more, but these were not my favorites. They're not horrible. I do like them better than the Recollections, but again, I keep going back to really to this Hero Arts product. So there's a couple of different examples, and I'll put these down here. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave it in the comments. I will get back to you. Now, as far as embossing inks, I know that the industry standard is going to be your Versamark for a clear embossing ink. It's along this same VersaFine family. The VersaFine will be colored. Versamark is clear. It's like a watermark stamp. I've never used that one, actually. When I first got into this card making, I picked up this Distress embossing ink by Tim Holtz. It's a Ranger product, and it's working great for me if it's not broken, right? So I've been really happy with this ink, and this is the one that I use exclusively right now. Glue, adhesives. So as far as a liquid glue, this Multimedia Matte is a very popular one. I like it a lot. It comes in bottles about this size for a few dollars each. You can get a 2-pack for like $7 or $8, I don't know. I picked up this very large jar for only $7, and then I refill my little detail applicator. That is a way that I save money. That's my value solution to liquid adhesives. I really like this glue. Foam adhesives, the industry standard seems to be that 3M foam tape. That is very pricey. I do have a small roll of it. Honestly, it's not my go-to. My go-to are these sheets of Fun Foam. I got 48 of these from Michaels. This is Creatology as well. And they come in all different sizes. I buy this because it's so close to the card size. I don't have to do a lot of cutting, but I'll get a couple of strips out of this, and then one panel base if I need, like a panel pop-up the size of the panel. They work very well. They keep things uniformly flat. If the entire panel with it, you'll get that even lift. So if you mail it, you don't have to worry about it squishing where there's no foam tape. And it's so inexpensive. 48 sheets, I think it was either $7.99 or $8.99, 40% off coupon. And I have been using this. I've made dozens and dozens of cards with this pack. I still have almost half left, and I use every bit of it. This is my little box that I keep all my scraps in. Sometimes I die cut it. It die cuts well. I cut a strip off. I put it in here. And then when I have something smaller than a panel that I need to pop up, a sentiment or a die cut or something, I go into this little box. I take what I need, and I really make the most of every single piece. Something else that's not really a value product or whatever, but if you notice this piece of foam here, this box is always on the shelf of my craft desk. And so when I'm creating projects and I'm using my glue, I stick my pin right in there so that I don't lose it. So it's a little bit off topic, but it's been a really handy little solution for me because I kept losing my pin, and that doesn't happen anymore. So here's an example of me having made a card with the foam tape. I used green, or Fun Foam, I'm sorry. I used green Fun Foam in there. It's lifted up evenly. I can press on it. Nothing goes wrong. It looks really nice. You really can't see the color. Still and yet I do try to, on the side a little maybe, still and yet I do try to match the color, but really I don't think that anybody would notice it too much. That's a card I shared in a recent video. And then finally for today, I really could go on and on all day, and I feel like maybe I have. I hope that this has been helpful as you've listened to me, and hopefully you've stuck around. But two little very inexpensive lifesavers. This is an adhesive eraser. You can see that it's well loved. I've had it for years, literally years. I believe it's EK Tools, and this has been really useful in helping me to erase or roll up some tape runner or ATG tape that was in a place where I needed it to not be, and that works really well. Secondly, this sand eraser. This helps me get up little mistaken ink marks. So sometimes when I'm putting my ink block in the ink, or putting the ink onto the block, whichever way I need to do it for a particular project. If I get some on the corner of the block, maybe I get it on my finger, I get it on my card. I've worked on this card. I love this card. Now I have a little dot. More often than not, this sand eraser will take that ink away, and it has come in really handy and has saved a lot of my projects. Each of these cost only a couple dollars each. I do encourage you to invest in these. They will probably save you in other materials, cardstocks and whatnot, their value multiple times over very quickly. So I think that I'm gonna call that it for today, you guys. This was a really long video. I do hope that, I really do hope that you found it helpful and that you got some tips, tricks, or advice that will help you to make projects you're happier with. And I hope that if nothing else, spending a little bit of time with me today will inspire you to make beautiful things. Thanks so much for stopping by. I'll see you soon.